Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Site Clinic podcast. This is a little bit of a different edition because it's already been recorded once, even though it didn't actually show up. But I'm very excited for you guys to see this because I was happy with how the show turned out before. I thought we had some great information. But let me introduce you to my guest. This is my friend, Eric McGehearty. Eric runs Globe Runner SEO here in Dallas, another SEO firm, a lot like Wright IMC. We've exchanged businesses over the years. We've competed for business over the years. And in that period of time, become good friends. Eric, welcome to the show. Tell us what's going on with you lately.
Tony, thanks for having me. Well, yeah, things are going well. We're celebrating our 16th year in business now. And, I'm excited about some of the recent changes in search, and I'm looking forward to the search landscape of, how rapidly and to what extent will AI take over search and change the way consumers discover things. My most recent venture is we're actually building our own software, which is essentially a rank tracking tool for AI visibility. So helping brands understand whether or not the AI models actually have a good understanding of their brand or including them in, consumer searches. So we have a working software now. We're currently in beta with about a dozen clients, and we'll be rolling that out to the public here really soon. So
interesting. I've seen a couple of tools similarly. I think Dixon Jones launched one yesterday. That is basically how you can find out, it's kind of like a rank tracker for AI, etc. And then I think there's another one, SEMrush has come out with one, and SpyFu has an interesting thing. I think they asked AI like 2 million questions or something like that.
I saw that. Yeah, very different from what I'm doing, but they ask AI, I don't know, 200,000 queries or some big data set, and just created a data set of what does it know right now, kind of give that look. So yeah, we're excited about that. So people can learn more about it at brandvisibility.ai. The current website is kind of a placeholder, but in a week or so, we'll have the actual website launched on that domain.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think we're seeing so many different tools coming out. I've been having my own works with different people on different types of things. It's just an exciting time. But let's go back to we still live in an age where the website is your most important marketing channel. I truly believe it. You can be TikTok and Facebook all day long. You can run AI agents, and you can do that to enhance your own website. And so that's what we kind of try to do if you are joining us for the first time on this particular podcast, the Site Clinic podcast. The whole thing we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 different sites. A couple of these sites were submitted. One I picked out on my own because we didn't have enough submissions at the time. But that's okay. If you do want to have your site looked at, please go to the siteclinicpodcast.com and fill out the form there. I promise you it'll get in the queue in the next few weeks, and I'll let you know as soon as it comes live. But we're not trying to sell you on anything. This is not a sales pitch by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, if you get your site reviewed, I feel it's very beneficial to you. My goal is not to just benefit you. Our goal is to benefit everyone watching, because what we find is a lot of these sites have the same or similar issues. And as Eric and I walk through these sites and tell you, what we're seeing, you're probably going to see something that reflects your own experience if you are a site owner. And hopefully that will give you some ideas on how to fix these things up. We're not trying to sell you, we're trying to educate you. So with that, Eric, I'm going to go ahead and share our first site, which is a cafe called 7 Mile Cafe. Let me see. There we go. 7 Mile Cafe. Tell me when you can see the screen, Eric.
I can see it. Looks great.
This ought to go pretty quickly because we've already done it once.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I said last time, the biggest thing I have with this, I like the food picture. I really do. I just think it takes up a little bit too much of this page. I like the fact that you know exactly what they do. They're a restaurant. I'm not a huge fan of the tagline, but that's probably a little bit subjective. I'm not sure that tagline is making or breaking anyone's decision whether or not to go eat here. But I will say, what I don't see is except for that picture, is a really great hook to get me to immediately want to learn more about this restaurant, find out why they're unique, and et cetera. So what do you think?
Yeah, I noticed a couple things right away. One thing that jumps out to me visually is just the menu is almost impossible to see against that background of the image. So I would definitely put something, even a gradient behind the menu so that we could see it would be really nice. And then the other thing that I always start with, and we can't see it in your shared screen, but I don't know if you could show it,
Yeah.
is the title tag on this page.
That's easy enough. Okay, here, can you see it? The title tag just I'm in the code. Now don't get intimidated by people
I
who
can't
haven't in the
we
code.
can't see the code,
And
Tony. I think
I'm sharing this tab instead.
yeah, here we
Okay, so
go.
I'm sharing this code, and you can see this code. You can see what the title tag is. Those of you who are not familiar with HTML, do not freak out. This is not anything fancy. All I'm looking for is this title tag. Title tag is that is the headline of your website. Should be what your website is represented as. You can put keywords in here, but really, I tell people it's more about getting the click. This is, if somebody's looking at you in Google or even AI, this is what they're seeing about you in that first listing when it comes up. So if it doesn't make you want to click, it's just full of keywords, that doesn't help you at all either. And right here, go into it, Eric, because I know where you're going with this, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So the way I think about a title tag is it's the name of a document. And so if you go and you create a document on your computer and you want to find it later, you give it a name that is keyword rich that helps you locate that document. And so essentially what you're doing is you're naming the page what you want to be found for. Right. And so you would do that for Google and for users. And you'd say, hey, we are sure it's the brand name, 7 Mile Cafe. What do you sell? Are you a breakfast and lunch restaurant? Do you have a brunch? Like, what do you want to push? Where are you located? From that title tag, I don't know. So in this case, very simple. You would say, obviously, these guys want to sell breakfast. So it's serving breakfast and lunch, 7 Mile Cafe. And then where are you located? 7 Mile is in Denton. So
Right, and I think that is one big thing also on this. This is a local cafe. I live, you where you live and I live. We're both in Dallas area, but it's unlikely that we're going to go to this cafe unless it's a special destination or we're meeting some. So qualifying the customer is important. For me to come, if I just come across this restaurant for whatever reason, and I'm like, oh, this looks good, and then I spend time finding out it's in Denton, that's probably not a bad thing, but it doesn't help you and it doesn't help me. So
it's a waste of everybody's time, and it's
right,
a waste of the restaurant's time. So they don't need to optimize for people in California or even, people in, Austin, Texas. They want to optimize for people that are in Denton or going to Denton. Now, if I'm living, I live about an hour from Denton, so I might do a day trip over to Denton, and then I might be looking for great lunch spots in Denton because I might be doing a day trip. And so that's why it's so important to have the word Denton, Texas in your title tag, in your heading tags. Another thing that I notice when I jump onto the site, speaking on this, I don't see anything really about Denton, particularly anywhere, right?
no, there's not really an about us. They're
You know
selling.
what?
Here's their
You know what?
locations.
They have more than one location. Which, did we know that right away? No,
No.
right? So that's another, just a quick example of us looking at the website, making an assumption about where it's located based on the address in the footer, and then realizing that they do have
Well,
more than
because actually, yeah, they have a place in Louisville and Highland Village, which is probably a lot closer to you
yeah,
than
absolutely.
Denton. And that's actually, it gets in the realm of somewhere you might actually go eat.
So now we got the title tag can change again. So now we've got, breakfast and lunch, 7 Mile Cafe, Dallas, Fort Worth. Okay, great. 6 locations. You've got 70 characters thereabouts, 60, 70 characters to work with. Make it count, right? Now you can't go too long because Google will give you a dot, dot, dot at the end of it or rewrite it for you in a way that you don't want. But it's a great opportunity. And so I always encourage people to look at that. If they don't want to look at the code, it's actually visible in the tab of the website. And in this case, I noticed in the tab, as long as we're on that, we're missing a favicon, which is that cute little image that helps you identify what website is on that tab. And the favicon does a couple of things for us. One, it's a trust builder. It just, people subconsciously see it as something that they trust that website if it has a custom favicon. But it also helps me find that website if I have a gazillion tabs open. I don't know about you, Tony, but I always have more
Yeah.
tabs open.
I
And
closed them all right before we got on here, but I think I had 25 open before we started this
Yeah. And
particular
so
call.
to find something again, you usually are looking for that little favicon. And so that's another small piece that I'm seeing is either missing or they have a white favicon, which I can't see.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. One of the things that I like to do on these sites is we will take a look at them in SEMrush. Now, SEMrush is a tool that we use daily at my agency, and I know that Eric and his agency use it as well. It gives us a lot of data about a website. The portion that we're going to use today is called the domain overview, and it is absolutely free for you to use. All you need to do is go to Google and type in SEMrush domain overview, and you will get a screen that looks like, hold on just a second, it looks like this. And you can see I've already typed in the name of, or put in the URL here, and I'm going to get some information. The thing that this page is going to tell me, it's going to tell me how a site is ranking for different keywords, and it's going to tell me what keywords it's ranking for, as well as the sites that are linking back to it, to that, so that this link profile, and give an authority score based upon those things. So this is just a really good way to get a quick overview of what's going on under the hood of a site. It's the first place I usually stop when I'm looking at how do we fix a site, or where, trying to assess where they are. And I can tell you, for our friends at 7 Mile Cafe, 40 score of 32 is not horrible.
For a local
Especially that's,
restaurant, that seems pretty good.
yeah, I mean, they have 1,100 backlinks, which is totally reasonable. And from 290 domains, one of the things I also look for here, and Eric, is when we're looking at backlinks, if you get 10,000 links from 200 domains, it looks like somebody's giving you site-wide links, meaning that it could be spammy. You could actually be breaking Google's terms of service. If you are a small business owner, and in the past you have hired people who have gone out and sold you links, every once in a while you need to go back and make sure that those aren't hurting you, because while the bigger chance is that they're just being ignored and you just wasted some money on them, just to be frank, there's a secondary chance that they could actually be actively harming your rankings. So you need to go and check that out. And this kind of tool, you could do that with here. But you can see their traffic is it's been increasing over, I've got it here all time. It looks like they started way back in 2017. Pretty steady increases in traffic all the way through. What do you think of Eric? What do you think about this so far, Eric?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, well, it's interesting, Tony, because I pulled up the same search and I got a slightly different result. I see the 32.
Do you want to share? You want to share your screen instead of I can
Yeah,
stop
let's
sharing, and you
let's
can just
compare. I'm
share your
curious to,
screen. That's always easy to do.
curious to see why that would be. I'll share my screen right
Okay,
now.
stopped sharing. So let's look at your screen.
So same tool, right? 7 Mile Cafe, same everything. I'm seeing this tremendous drop in
Yeah, it's
ranking.
if you go up and hit all time instead of 2 years, you'll see the same thing I was seeing.
Okay.
So it's the same.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah, okay, it's the same
okay.
thing.
All
Yeah, it's just
time.
looking at a different date ranges.
I see now. Yeah, so this is interesting. They had this big peak in rankings back in 2013. I guess this is, this is kind of a COVID rise in some ways, post-COVID rise, maybe popularity of restaurants going up. We do see a pretty good growth in traffic. I'm seeing that kind of plateaus here in that same period where we saw those rankings.
One
But
thing, one thing I love about this particular tool, I mean, because I take, the difference between this top one here, the top graph, where it's just the one line. That's kind of how they estimate organic traffic. I tell every single person that that it will listen, this is good data to have, but it is not real data. These are not real numbers. If you go and look in analytics, there is no way. I would guess it would be 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance that they would actually get it right on the numbers. So don't ever look at like that, because what SEMrush does here is they take the number of keywords that you rank for, and then they estimate how many keywords you are going to, how much traffic you would get, how much traffic you would get from those keywords. And that is their traffic estimate, which is, you can see, doesn't get you anything. The better is the lower graph, which is the organic keywords. That just shows you how many keywords you have and if they're ranking in the top 3, etc. So you can go and check all of those things. Also, at the bottom of this graph, it's very useful, is it shows every time there was a Google algorithm updates. You can see what correlates, sometimes the correlations between, wow, we had a huge jump or a huge dip, and look at that Google or algorithm update, see what that algorithm update was about. And you can either capitalize on the trend that Google's wanting or fix the problem that you have. That's how when people come to us with and I know Eric, same thing, when people come to us and they've seen their rankings drop, this is the first thing we look at. Let's look and see what was the circumstances that caused it. Did you redo something? Did Google change something? Because there's always a reason. Sometimes the reason's not extremely evident in the beginning, but there is always a reason why you see dropping ranking. This is the first place that I start when I'm looking for a drop, to diagnose a drop, even though these guys don't have a drop.
I think one thing that's interesting that might be helpful for some of the people watching this is kind of learning how to read these graphs. I'll just show the difference. So I had everything clicked on here. So this is everything from top 3 to keywords that are positioned 50 to 100. Well, 50 to 100, no one ever sees, right? That doesn't matter. All that really says is that Google has some inclination that you might someday be ranked for that keyword. So when I click these off and we only look at keywords that are actually ranking on the first page of Google, they've had really good results actually since 2013. So they've been nothing but climbing. When we look at their keywords that have potential, and I'm going to turn off the page 1 keywords. So we'll look at first what I call striking distance, still strong growth. This is where we've had the decline. It's in that 21 to 50 and probably as well in that 50 to 100. So it's really those, kind of long distance keywords that it seems like Google showed them for a while and said, maybe this is something that we want to include, and then took them out of those. So you got to be careful how you read these graphs so you really understand what is the real performance of the brand. And that's really the ultimate performance right there.
I agree with you. I think it's because it is really easy, especially, even when we're doing this site clinic, and I think it's a good caveat to make. We don't have all the information. And even when we do have all the information, there's different ways to interpret the data. And I mean, I don't know. I grew up in a religious household, and sometimes I feel like the data is like the Bible. It can be shown in different ways, in different contexts. While there may be there is definitely an absolute truth, there's definitely different ways to look at it. And so we see that a lot of times in these particular, I will have clients coming and misreading data to say, like, here's a good example. This is, to me, it seems common sense that if you're running paid ads, you shouldn't be, or if you rank number 1 for the SEO, you shouldn't have to pay for the ad. That is absolutely it's a false causation or correlation. There is no correlation between that. It's actually opposite. It is the more you buy, the better that both of those channels do. And I've seen that happen over and over again. And the reason being is you don't think about it, but what happens is a mini branding effect is created on that search engine results page. So if people are searching for, say I'm searching for a pest control guy, right? And he's ranking number 2 organically, and he's got an ad there. Well, now all of a sudden, even if one of them is paid, I'm seeing 2 instances on the case where I'm trying to get rid of the flies in my house, right? I'm looking for a solution. This guy's mentioned twice. He's got to be the authority. Click, get the business. And that happens day after day after day. People will also come to me, Tony, I'm tired of paying. I don't want to pay for my name. I don't want to pay. There is value to it that goes, it's kind of, sometimes I feel like it's short-sighted not to bid on those branded keywords, because if you don't do that, you're never going to get those really great SERPs that show that your company is the authority.
Well, and as long as we're on that subject, buying your name allows you to really sculpt where people go and how they see your brand. So you can change your ad at the drop of a dime. So if you want to promote a new product or promote a sale or a feature or something like that, you put that in your ad copy. You can also choose different site links that you want to call out that might navigate that user where they want to go quicker. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I think I read a study that your click-through rate on your organic result goes up 17% if you're advertising in the paid ads. I think that was a number. That was several years ago. So that
and those numbers, I'm sure, they're so different, because I think that different types of queries are going to result in different,
right. I don't remember where I got that metric from, but I do remember reading that there was a pretty good study that validated what you just said, and I
Yeah, no,
totally
and we see those all the time. And you do have to. The thing is, you also have to. I've been recommending a lot lately to my younger SEO colleagues because I've been seeing this a lot. Make sure you're looking at the date of the information you are reading something about. If you're reading a blog post from someone, and even someone like me, or some of the really, really amazing people in our industry that do a great job of keeping the news out. But if it's from September 2016, there's a good chance it's not relevant anymore.
it's out of date. Yep.
Yeah, and the thing about SEO is the fundamentals of it haven't really changed that much over the last 25 years. But as of lately, the tactics that are used, as well as anything that seems a little bit like a tactic that's only used for search engines, are most likely going to get you in trouble.
Right.
So
Right.
it's much better to really make sure, if you get a great idea, and this is what I always say, if I see a great idea from something in the past, it doesn't mean I should discount it. It just means I need to do some further research to see if that's still going to work. And even from that, sometimes doing some testing to see if it still works too. If you've been doing this for a while, it's not hard to figure those things out. But for new people who don't have the history, they don't have kind of a timeline. I feel like I have a timeline in my head of SEO, so I
Yeah.
can kind of know what would work and what not. Anyways, let's real quick go down. I just wanted to go down. Can I share real quick again?
Yeah, sure.
Let me go back. Share my screen. First, I wanted to go back into here and look at this. One of the things I like to do, the other things I like to really look at, this is really important for their SERP features, especially for a restaurant. You need to, they've got images on their search feature, and you can look at all of these different things. Like, do they have a featured snippet? Do they have site links? If you don't know what these are, go look them up, because you need to know the stuff you're going to do SEO. And I can tell you, but I don't want to waste the time. AI overview, does it have that? Just looking at all these things, and when you're looking at those SERP features, you can go in and see how many of them are being affected by something like site links or the AI overview. And if you know that your particular keywords are prone to being affected by a specific SERP feature, then you need to work to adhere to what you're going to, go play to your strengths. The images are great, and and the images seem to be impacting their listings more than anything. They probably should double down on listings and really get some more listings, because we know that Google likes to see those from a restaurant. And Eric, did you have anything you wanted to say on that? Because there's one other thing I wanted to talk about on this, is the branded versus non-branded traffic. But what do
Yeah,
you think?
go ahead and
Yeah,
mention. I can see it plain as day, but I'll
yeah,
let you go ahead and say what you wanted to say there. And then I might just say, let's jump back to the website and look at one of the city specific pages.
sure, we can do that. Okay, and I'll to keep this real quick, because I also want to do site speed, and then we got two other sites to get to, but we can do that real quick. A branded, if you see this, if you don't know what branded, non-branded is, it's a pretty simple concept. If you're talking about you and your name, then that's branded. If it's something that's related to you, if it's non-branded, it would be like a restaurant in Denton. While we talked earlier about how we want to make sure we're buying our brand name, to the same extent, we need to make sure that we're not only focusing on our brand name. And right now, a lot of the queries, a lot of things that they're showing up for are branded. They have a much higher percentage of keywords. So that means there's a lot of people searching for this 7 Mile Cafe. And now, one of the things you can do just really quickly is go over here to the left, and let's look at the queries of those, or the keywords that they show up under. Are they informational, meaning that they're trying to get info about the restaurant? Navigational, how do I get there? Commercial, should I buy here? Should I talk to them? I'm not sure. Transactional, I'm hungry and I want to buy omelets. Those are the
Mhm.
different types of traffic you got. You can see the different breakdowns of how that is, but you can see that still, even in those breakdowns, they're still not categorized as branded or non-branded. So you break it down further into what the traffic that's coming in, and you can make the case that most of their traffic is coming from branded searches, people who already know who they are, who are just looking to have their idea validated that that's where they should go for their next meal. So anyways,
Yeah, I wonder where they put menu on. Is that an informational or a commercial? 7 Mile Cafe menu, for instance. Because for me, that's one of the big, like, do I want to eat there? Let me look at the menu.
I could see if I could search for that particular keyword. 7 Mile Cafe menu is categorized as transactional and informational.
Okay. Interesting.
And so you can see here, you get into the traffic, 172 searches a month for them, which for a branded keyword, that's pretty darn good. And it represents about what that particular keyword represents 1.59% of their traffic. Again, caveat, this isn't Google Analytics, but you can see of their keywords, I should say, instead of traffic. And that keyword difficulty percentage, we haven't even ever gotten into this, 35%, how hard it would be to show up for that particular keyword. So not a real difficult one. It's they call it a yellow. It's I would not be scared of that keyword by any stretch of the imagination. And you can see, these different iterations. They're categorizing all of them as informational and transactional. Anyways, did you want to go back and look at something in the site?
Yeah, we could. I just wanted to look at the location pages, because this is another really critical one. We talked earlier about why I would want to go there, and it's usually has to do with I want to go eat, and so I want to go to location. So if you go to location pages
here, okay, I'm on the Denton page. Can you see this one?
No, I can just see the home page still.
Share this tab.
Cool. No, you're actually not on the Denton page. You're on the Toasted page, which they use Toasted for online reservations.
We ran into this last time. The Denton page doesn't work.
The Denton page does work. So if you go back to the website and then go to locations and scroll down to Denton.
Share this tab here. You can see.
Not that. Don't click that. Scroll up to the top.
Wait, let me get back to that page then. Maybe. Okay. Okay, so I'm on this page here.
Which page?
The home page, or that. Let's go back to. I may just have you share, because I'm having trouble getting it to share the page that I want to. Let me go back into the studio and stop sharing. I'm going to let you share it because you've got it up how you want to. So stop sharing.
So I have, so this is from the homepage. So if I go to the homepage and I go to the drop down, I go to Denton, it does actually have a Denton page, which is still on their website. So this page is a great example of, kind of a wasted opportunity, right? They've got a photo of the restaurant. Great. Glad to see that. That's important. They have the address, but they don't really have it in a good way that I could just click on it and get directions, because we could certainly have a call to action right here that says get directions, particularly on a mobile device. I might be here and want to go. They don't have the hours for the Denton location. They're missing any sort of, title tag, like, breakfast and lunch in Denton, Texas, right? Like I said earlier, that's where we'd want to optimize specifically for Denton here. We'd want to optimize for breakfast and lunch in Keller here. So really good opportunities here to add a lot to this page. Give me the hours, give me a little bit, maybe a little paragraph that kind of says what makes them special, or maybe what they're nearby, or they're nestled into XYZ cute community close to shopping. And so oh, okay, well, we could go over there and eat and then shop. Sell me on why I should go over there, and sell me here. And then give me the hours of that location, or any special information I might need to know. It's wheelchair accessible, offering gluten-free choices, whatever you want to say. But there's a lot of opportunities, and give me directions as well. So I just wanted to highlight these pages are big opportunity pages for search that are being really underutilized.
Absolutely. I think that especially for a local restaurant, you've got to have those. You can't just throw just like each of your restaurants is not a cookie cutter of each other.
Right.
They're not going to be, you shouldn't have cookie cutter pages.
Give me the book a private event here link, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me that this location features a large private dining area for corporate events. There's all sorts of things that we can do on these location pages to really set them apart. And that's, that really sells the restaurant and gets people in there, maybe for something a little different, like a corporate event.
Okay. Definitely. Well, I want to wrap this one up real quick. So we've got a couple other things to get to. And the last thing I always look at on a site here is I look at their page speed. Now, I'll give my one caveat that I'll give it every show. Technical SEO. If you are not an SEO, it's probably best if you're not, you either got to take the time to learn it, which can take considerable amount of time, or hire somebody who can fix your page speed, which usually is not that expensive. I know Eric's firm provides it. My firm provides it. Just about every SEO firm worth their salt is going to be able to fix a site's page speed. But it shows me also kind of how you're viewing your site and, what is going on with different platforms. And the one thing I want to always look at is what is your mobile index, not your desktop. Mobile first is all we're going to look at, because that's what Google has indicated that they want us to see. Also, I haven't seen a site it's been over a year since I've seen a site that had more desktop traffic than mobile traffic. Most of the time, the traffic is significantly more coming from mobile than it is from desktop these days. So it's more important to definitely look at your mobile. And the thing that we really look at, the performance score is a 49. I like to see that to be much higher. If it's above, I want it to be above a 90. Anything above a 90 is kind of gravy. But the big thing that I always look at is, what is your largest contentful paint? What does that mean? That means on a mobile device, how long does it take to load? This one is 14.2 seconds. If I am looking for a place to go to brunch on Sunday morning and I have to sit there and look at my phone for 14.2 seconds for it to load, there's a very good chance I'm going to go look somewhere else.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree.
And so I just wanted to make that point on this particular site. Is definitely some things that need to be fixed there. And we'll get into that to more of that on the other ones. We kind of gotten a little bit behind. So I'm want to move on to our next victim, if I can find the tab. And I'm going to share this tab again. Share this tab now. If you can see, tell me when you can see it, Eric. It's the Urban Spool Sewing Lounge. Now, when we went through this last time, when the one that didn't get recorded, I'm still fascinated by this place. I've never heard of a sewing lounge before. I think it's a brilliant concept. I don't know anything about these folks except that we got the website, and I think that, and I know nothing about sewing. So I've been watching this with interest. And the first thing that I see those, because I've already been to this site once, so it's not fair, but I don't feel like when you enter this site that you have any idea what they do.
No clue at all. Yeah. So this site, it's a great example of a website that I think was built and caters to their avid fans, the people that already know what they do. They already go to the sewing lounge. They're part of the sewing community, and they're already very familiar with the brand. And they come to this site and they use it as a tool. And for that purpose, it probably works.
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
Doesn't do is attract new people to the brand and offer discoverability and usability to somebody that might be interested in getting into the community or learning more about what a sewing lounge even is. And that's where I think this site needs some work.
No, absolutely. I think to your point, I mean, it's funny. We're doing in another episode I did recently. We had someone who was doing the exact same thing, and this was a YouTube creator, and was selling merchandise. And in all honesty, I felt like her stuff was pretty decent merchandise, but if you didn't know who she was, she didn't care about it. It was obvious she didn't care, that there was nowhere for you to even learn about who she was on their website. And I felt like that's kind of it's either hubris and arrogance or youthful misunderstanding in a lot of cases, when you don't think you need to tell people who you are, because on a website, you always got new people in. That doesn't mean that portions of your website should not be like a well-worn rug in your house, people walking back and forth. But it does mean that if someone new comes into the house, they need to understand what's going on there and not just see that there's a well-worn rug with everybody walking around on it. They need to see, wait, who do these people, what do they do? What are the opportunities for me? Should I stay here? Is this something for me? Because honestly, if I go there, I don't do I'm not a sewer. This wouldn't be for me, but for my mother-in-law, perfect. She loves sewing. She'd love to. In fact, I told her about this site. She was interested in learning more about it because she is that target audience. If she saw this site, she's a 75-year-old woman, but she's definitely in the demographic, and there's no way she would understand what this site was by just coming here and seeing it right away.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, there is a lot going on here.
Yeah.
It's one of those sites that just takes you a second to even go, what am I supposed to be looking at? So, I mean,
can you check your mic just real quick? You're cutting in and out.
Yeah. How do I sound?
Now you sound better. You were cutting in and out there for a second.
Sorry about that. Well, yeah. So, once again, I'd start with a heading on the page that gives me a really clear idea of what the site's about and what I'm here to do. And give me some subheadings and some navigation that pushes the user to the right section of the site.
Oh, no, definitely. I mean, just this homepage alone is just, I mean, it's got so much on it, and it goes so far down as you keep scrolling. It's like new things popping up everywhere. And it's still to this point, even though I kind of now I've been through the site, so I understand what they do. It's hard for me to understand. This is a sewing lounge that has product. It almost looks like an e-commerce site focusing on sewing machines, which, who knows, that could be a very lucrative business as far as I know. But from reading through the site, I can tell you their big thing is they're moving. And so they've got this whole thing about how they're moving and how they moved this year. So that's a big deal. And in person is obviously very important to this particular business, but you would not know that as you enter this website at all.
Right. Exactly. You know what it kind of reminds me of, Tony? It reminds me of a gaming store that you go in there, you play games, and you buy the books and you buy the dice and everything, or you buy the board games from the store, but they have tables set up so you can play. And that's kind of similar in concept to what this place is. And from my perspective, is that you go there, you sew, you hang out with people, but you buy your sewing machine, you buy your fabrics, you buy all your stuff. And the sewing machine business does look to be pretty lucrative. These machines are quite expensive. I mean, they're thousands of dollars
Yeah,
for some of these.
I'm sure the markup is at least 20%, if not more.
Oh, I bet
Yeah.
it's a lot more than that. Yeah, 50. I mean, they even have financing on it, right? Financing is their top choice on sewing machines.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
Definitely some big business. Now let's just, because of time, I've gone ahead and put them into SEM Rush. And you tell me when you can see this tab.
Yeah, I see it. Yep.
It hasn't gone.
There's no data there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there it comes. And because we were looking at some different things, so it's not the same view, but that's okay. Let's just go back to the domain overview. Okay, authority score of 21, not bad for a sewing place, but still way lower. This is a B2C company. If you are B2C and you have authority score below a 40, you need to be working on site link or link building. If it's even they argue that 40 number is kind of arbitrary, but that's how I feel. If you come to me and say, I don't want to do site building, I just want to do content and my website, I'm going to look and see if you don't have at least a 40, you're missing out on opportunities. You should even get more than that. And honestly, just to be honest, for building links, we should never be building links just for SEO purposes. Build links, but with people who you would like and respect and want to support their business, but who also build links by creating something interesting that people are going to want to link to. That is the best way to do it. But, we got 630 backlinks from 202 domains. That looks pretty normal to me. It looks like there's there's been some volatility over time, especially back in, when was this, 2022. It looks like they jumped up really big and then had a drop down. So that would be, I would be looking at this particular core update, which is the November 2021 core update. And that was a big one. That one looks like it affected their traffic when you see something like that and a jump. So, as you're diagnosing this, and you can go diagnose this on your own for free on your own site, go to SEM Rush. This is all free. You can see all of this data yourself and see if you've got something to diagnose. But Eric, what do you think? Are you seeing anything that's jumping out at you here?
Yeah. Not yet. I mean, I agree with your assessment, though. They've been in business for over 10 years. I would suspect they could have gotten a better domain authority by now. But I feel like part of that's probably their demographic. It's probably not a very tech-forward demographic. And that may be why they haven't generated more link opportunities with their core group.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And I think that there's always opportunities that I see. I mean, one of the things that I like to do when I see a site like this, where maybe, if the demographic skews older, it's hard to get your customers to give you links because your customers aren't online. They don't have usually the presence, but I found that we can usually get links up even by just going to vendors. Say, for instance,
Tony, you froze up on me.
Can you see me now?
There you go.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Internet's been a little wonky. Hopefully I'll be able to edit all that down. But the thing is what I'm saying is that those types of sites, when they're all, I lost my train of thought. I'll think of it in a minute as I go back to these SERPs. I think that, they've got some good thing. I do like the fact that their branded and non-branded are much closer in percentage. That's what I like to see. It doesn't necessarily always mean most healthy, because it depends on how many keywords there are. And we've got, 53% by 24 keywords versus 48% at 1,000. So they've only got 24 keywords of their own name that they're showing up. That's still 53% of what they're getting. So they need to be looking at that. It looks like a pretty good split to me, but further evidence would be the only way to know that for sure. And then you could see, their split, like we looked at earlier, their informational versus transactional. They actually have, almost 30% of their keywords are transactional and 34% informational. So that's a really good stat there. And I would definitely think that they would want that. But to your point earlier, Eric, what do they look at? Most of their keywords are sitting at 21 to 50. There's a lot, and 51 to 100. There's a lot of room for improvement here.
A lot of room. Yeah, a lot of room.
Eric, are you there?
The other thing
Yeah.
that we might think about too, I'm just strategically kind of thinking through this particular client. I mean, they've got two opportunities. They've got this opportunity to build their in-person business for classes, but they do have an e-commerce shop that could sell to anybody all over the world, theoretically. So, they could be doing some e-commerce plays that I think might be interesting, both from an SEO and paid. Let me look at their paid real quick. Let me see if I can run a quick report and see if they're doing any paid
Okay.
search.
Yeah. And in the meantime, if you want, do you want to share?
Let me get this pulled up first.
Okay. Yeah. I think that this site in particular, here, let me stop sharing so it's all yours.
So I just pulled them up in SpyFu, which is kind of my go-to for paid to see if they're running any paid traffic, and they're not. So there's nothing to share.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I get here because I've got something to share here.
So if you want, what I was going to say is let's go ahead and do a quick Google search for one of the sewing machines they sell. Like they've got this Baby Locker or Baby Lock Brilliant.
Okay. Want to share your screen and do the search, or would you
let me do that. So outside of SEO, I would also be really interested in doing some paid search with this client. And I would look to do product listing ads as my number one vehicle. We've had great success. It's generally where we get our best ROAS on e-commerce clients. So these product listing ads are really valuable, and we can go in. So here's their page. They're selling it for $1,000. That seems to be the going price. So, they're not priced out of this marketplace.
No, I would imagine sewing machines are probably going to have a NAP, meaning that they're going to have a named advertising price. And I've run into this in the past where ironically, we used to sell bed sheet, like comforters. We had a site that was our client sold comforters. And the thing about that is, unless it is damaged or has been approved to be on clearance, the manufacturers will not let you sell their products for less. You cannot put it on sale. Yeah. You can't
minimum advertised price.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got to, and I'm guessing that you're looking at that map also on sewing machines.
I'm guessing so, especially since we don't see anybody selling it for even $1 less. Right?
Yeah, that's a pretty good indication. And it's hard to do that. It's almost coercion. If you want to keep the value of your stuff, it's not your fault if somebody bought too much inventory of your product, I guess, and could sell it. So
the other thing that I might start thinking about is optimizing for these video placements and direct searches on YouTube, and doing videos like how to use for any of your sewing machines. So how to use, fill in sewing machine name, right? And the store could be doing really nice videos on that. They've got these machines, whatever their best sellers are, they could do videos. We could put those videos in this content right here. You've got a nice big hole right there. I could put a video. So I see an opportunity for them to really amp up their e-commerce game.
Absolutely. Oh, definitely. There's some opportunity there. The last thing I want to look at for these guys is, let me get my sharing screen, because the last thing I just did want to do a quick look at their page speed. Tell me when you can see this come up. And their page speed isn't bad. They're still lower than I'd like them to be at a 55, a performance score. And the largest contentful paint is absolutely to have that high of a performance score and that low of how long it takes to load. There is a problem on this site. something is taking too long to load. You definitely need somebody to go in and fix this. As people start looking at this on their mobile phone, just, I will tell you, if Eric and I sat here and were quiet for 23.9 seconds, you would think something is wrong with this podcast. It's
Yeah,
too long.
that would not work.
So definitely get that fixed. And you can see kind of a representation of that, meaning there's nothing. And then all of a sudden it starts to show up. And we can see part of the reasons, and I'm not going to get into this too much, but you've got the images are not optimized on this page. It's a very image heavy page. I would bet you could increase this score exponentially just by going in and optimizing the images so that they're a little bit smaller, which typically people are like, I don't want to do that. I need the quality of my images to be great. I can tell you that 99.9% of the world cannot tell the difference when you bring that down. I argue with my wife is a professional photographer, and she and I argue about this all the time on her stuff. I'm like, look, that's going to take too long to load. Well, I want it to look its best online. The problem with doing that is your monitor doesn't have as much of pixelation or pixels. It can't display as many pixels as something that, a piece of paper or, printing paper. So you're not going to get those deep colors. You get rid of some of that. You make the site or the page so it's easier to load, which helps you from SEO, helps you from user experience, etc. And you can do it without losing too much quality on the picture. I don't know why you wouldn't. There is a little bit of a compromise, but only to those that are so hyper focused on their image quality that, like a photographer would be.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And we really these days should be converting our images to WebP as our format. And like, for instance, this image they've got here is a JPEG, and obviously that's simple to put a JPEG out, but it is a JPEG. And I noticed, and I'll go ahead and share real quick if you don't mind, Tim.
Hold on, let me get out of it. I keep having to go to the tab and then, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, we can look at this image right here, and, this is just really crude, but just for example. All right. So how big is that? Yeah. So that is 600 by 400, rough numbers. And then we look here and we're going to measure this, and we've got 800 by 600. So we've got a lot more. That image is a lot larger than it really needs to be to fit in that space without even editing the quality of the image. And then if you edit the quality of the image, as you said a minute ago, if I take that same image, I'm in Photoshop here, and we'll go ahead and look at this without even converting it to WebP, but just changing the settings here. Right now I've got 268 kilobytes for that image, and it's on 100% quality. If I go down to, let's say, 80% quality, I drop off 100 kilobytes, and it doesn't affect the image at all.
It doesn't look it literally, you can't tell the difference at all.
Yeah. No one can tell the difference. It's still in the very high quality range. Even at the high quality range, you're really not going to tell the difference in the image. I've now got it down to 112. And by the way, our goal is 100. We want to get to 100 kilobytes for all the images on the site. So
I think it's a good point, because I say this is probably the biggest mistake of people that are walking in the door, to see us the first time, that I see, is images just way too high.
Yeah.
Frankly, I always tell people, if you don't know the technical SEO, it's like for me doing plumbing. I could probably fix my sink with a YouTube video, but there's a good chance I could flood my house, right? But if you're pretty safe, this would be like replacing a faucet, which is a little bit easier to do, right? This is just going in and taking your images and bringing down the size will get your performance up there. And it's something you can do without hiring anybody, that anybody can do. It's honestly just take those parameters that Eric was showing, or go Google what the parameters should be, set all of your images to that, and you may end up solving your problem when it comes to your technical SEO. So, Eric, I'm going to move us on to our last site of the day.
Let's go for it.
This is a florist that has been in Dallas as long as I can remember, and I've lived here my whole life. This is McShan Florist. They run lots of different radio advertisement. I've heard them on the radio. I've seen them on TV. It says on here, they've been our Dallas florist for over 70 years. So I'm not 70 years old. So they've been the Dallas florist for my entire life. First impressions. Let's hear it. What do you think, Eric?
They look like every flower shop I've ever went to.
I agree.
I'd love to see some more characters, something more unique that really shows them off. When I scroll down, I do appreciate the fact I think these images are taken by them of their arrangements. So that I'll give them big credit for. But
Yeah, their images are great.
yeah, these are really good. Outside of that photography, everything else says plain Jane. It looks exactly like every other florist I've ever seen in my life. And it's probably because they use a florist template or they use one of those florist website builders that are out there. I haven't
Well,
looked
I
at.
know that, like, yeah, forever 1-800-Flowers was providing like a free website if you used their service, and and you could basically become a reseller of 1-800-Flowers and build your own site out. All those sites look the same. They have the functionalities built into the back end. So, and they are customizable to an extent usually, but I don't think that most people who are buying them understand how to customize them real well. They've spent some money on this photography. I can tell you, as the husband of a professional photographer, looking at the quality of these images, these were done in a studio setting with lighting, somebody who knows what they're doing. Now, maybe the owner is a good photographer, but most of the time, these look like absolute professional photographs of their products. And blowing those up, putting and just having those. I'm never a huge fan of. I like you to tell what you do instead of showing what you do with pictures, because sometimes it's hard to do that. But in a picture, in a place like this, and you've got that hero image, that happy birthday flower bloom, whatever, with the big pink. That is not a stunning image. It's not a stunning. It doesn't make me want to buy flowers from you. Whereas if I go down here and I look at the pictures of these roses or this particular arrangement here, that one, or gosh, even this really colorful one's down here, I'm much more drawn to those than I am to this spring bouquet with the background with the same. It's just not very graphically appealing to me. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't like the stock image nearly as well as I like their actual photography, and it doesn't sell me at all.
Absolutely.
So one thing that I see when I look at this site too is they've kind of tried to use what I'd call an old school SEO trick, and it's not working for me. And here's what I mean by that. That top line that they've got there, your Dallas florist for over 70 years,
Mhm.
they you notice the font is slightly different than the font of the main body paragraph.
Yeah, I've seen that. I usually ascribe that to incompetence rather than actual tactic. But I want to hear.
Well, I think it's a tactic that somebody did, and
Okay.
it's what they did is they bracketed that one line in an H1 tag, okay? And so they're trying to say, "Hey, this is our H1. These are the keywords we want to rank for, Dallas florist being the main keywords." And I to put an H1 at the top of the page with the keywords you want to rank for, great. Fantastic. That's what we want to do. But the fact that they didn't style it to look more like an H1 to give it more body as a headline is the problem that I'm having with it. So
Okay,
I
well,
would like to
I'm
see
looking.
that.
I just can you? I shared it. I pulled up the code. I'm looking at the site, so you can see that that H1 tag. They do have that as an H1 tag,
Yep.
and you can see their class. It's embedded in here. So they just go to a straight P, and they keep it basically the same style. This looks like to me something that either WordPress or a WYSIWYG editor would do without it necessarily being somebody thinking of this as a true tactic to change things to get their to throw their H1 tags in there. I could be wrong on that, but
I don't
it's
know.
yeah.
If if you look down and they've got their metro area and they've got every single city kind of keyword stuffed into the footer of the page, it feels like they've hired somebody to work on their SEO, but from my point of view, in kind of an old school manner.
Yeah. Well, as you can see that, and it could be also there's a lot of folks that not just there's some incredibly good SEOs from overseas, but there's also some incredibly bad SEOs from overseas who implement a lot of tactics like this, not understanding the nuance of just because you need to have an H1 tag doesn't necessarily mean it has to be stuffed in there in square peg into a round hole type of thing.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, frankly, that could have been formatted to be a good H1. And be a good headline. So I don't see
Yeah.
why they needed to do that as a tactic, but that's how it looked.
Yeah, and I think that I've also seen that type of thing happen on a less experienced web developer who cuts and pastes some copy from maybe a Microsoft Word document or something else, and it gets in that and the class gets embedded in the style. I've seen that happen before.
Yep.
That didn't look to be the case there, but whenever I see something like that, that's usually what I think happened, as opposed to putting an H1 in just to make it an H1, unless, but that could also be, heck, it'd be really easy to go out, do videos on how to do SEO. And especially a few years ago, man, everyone was preaching H1 tags, H1 tags. And in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, it was that big of a deal, but it's not anymore. So we need to, you need to look at, see what you're, when you're looking at the information, what the date is on that information. You need to understand the context in which it was given. But then you can try it, and as Eric said, that kind of looks like it kind of could be. I could see it as being a gimmick or something else. But let's just take a quick look at and they're going to get cheated on a little bit of time compared to some of the others, but that's okay. If you are from McCann Florist and you would like to talk to either Eric or I, just reach out and we'll get you some more. We'll have you to go through more portions of the site. And that goes for anybody who's ever a guest, ever has a site on here. I promise you, the guests that I have on here, as well as myself, if you have a question about something that was said or need more information, just reach out to me and I'll get you that, and I'll get you in touch with any guests that you want to. Just a side deal. But Eric, can you see now my screen here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. They still have a low authority score comparatively to where I think they should be, especially as much history as this particular florist has in the Dallas area that I just know of. But they do have a lot more backlinks coming, but it's a little bit iffy because a lot coming from not very many domains.
So this is a good example. Let's talk a little bit about a backlink strategy that they could do as a florist, having deep roots in the Dallas area. There's lots of good strategies, but one that just popped in my head is if they got a little more involved in some of the charitable events and donated flowers to some of the high profile charitable events that have lots of good PR around them, they could get backlinks from donating flowers and being the official floral sponsor of those events, as well as exposure to high-end clients. So that's the type of thing that you can do as a real world business owner and connect with, things in real life that you want to be connected with, like a good charity event, and be a sponsor, donate some flowers, and then get links back from those charitable websites.
I think that's brilliant because I saw the strategy play out. The strategy is very similar to that play out with one of our clients, a high-end car dealership that was basically, Lexus, Mercedes, you name it. One of the things we used to get some of the most backlinks from are they would, for most of the school districts around town, their teacher of the year gets to lease and own, or at least for a year, a Lexus, and gets to drive that Lexus for a full year. And it was huge as far as people loving this. It was easy to get stories on, easy to get things going. And we got so many links from that. And people do forget that a few years ago, it was a really big deal to donate a lot of money to charities for backlinks. Backlinks have become not quite as important. And I think some of those charities have actually suffered because of that. I always felt like it was a great way to support a charity and also help your own business by, giving them what they need in exchange for some just acknowledgement. And that's really all you're asking. It's the same thing as if they were to send a thank you note out there. Now, Google may say that's against terms of service or whatever, but in my mind, if Google's going to come after me for giving money to charity, bring it on. We'll see how well that one plays out in the press.
Yeah.
Just kind of my own thought. But I did let's go back to it real quick, share the screen again, because I did want to point out a couple of things here. Okay, so we're in here. We got their authority score. They did have some big time volatility back in 2019. And you can see this drop off during pandemic. And I guess I don't remember how flowers were doing during the pandemic. I know I wasn't ordering them, but delivery, people didn't want people coming into their house. Something that was probably, I would imagine that, I had lunch with a friend of mine yesterday, who just reminded me that his entire business shut down. And his clients are churches. And during the pandemic, he lost every single one of his clients for about 3 months because they didn't need him. because he does background services for nursery workers in churches, right? So
Jeez.
he lost all that. And I think in florists, I would imagine that some of that happened there. But there's a huge, you can see that that's right in the middle of the pandemic, April 2020. People are looking for it, and then it just falls like a rock. That was the May 2020 core update, which was a big one. So if you're looking to diagnose what happened to your site, I think SEMrush has some really good tools here that can help you kind of understand what happened. Do you have any insights onto that one?
Yeah, I was thinking I didn't order any flowers during the pandemic, but you never know. I mean, maybe people sent them for moral support.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was a thing or not. But I totally agree with your statement. I mean, this is how you figure out what changed. And then when you do figure out what algorithm update affected you, you can go in and you just Google that algorithm update, that date. And generally there's either somebody like Tony, who's written an article on the subject, or you can find, even Google themselves sometimes will give some hints and clues on what was changed. Although they're so cryptic, it's probably not very useful.
Yeah, and back then, even to this day, Google has mastered the art of saying something without saying anything.
Yes. Yes.
So a lot of the things is they'll tell you, "Oh, this is how you should do it," and basically all this, basically what Google's advice is make good content. What is good content? Good
That
content.
is it. That's it. Just content. Yep. Good
Make
content.
good content. It has to be good content. But anyways, so you can see, I mean, they've got some good. Their branded keywords are way too high, but that's totally expected to me of somebody who's been running radio and television in a major market for 70 years. They're going to be mainly branded. But I do want to go real quick, share this tab instead. I have not run their site yet. I'm still got the other in there, but here we go. And share this tab. I'm running their page speed report. I just noticed we're way over time, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of move this on. But we've got here, I mean, they did pass their Core Web Vitals, which if you're not familiar with Core Web Vitals, it's a group of different things, tests that Google looks at. Just kind of like think about it as your own vitals, like your blood pressure or your breathing rate, your oxygen level, whatever. When your doctor looks at that, if you see something off, you can kind of tell there's something wrong. Well, these guys got to the doctor and everything looked okay, but they do have a lower performance rate. It's as far as largest contentful paint, they're definitely the fastest site we've seen of the three we looked at today. Eric,
There you
do you have
go.
anything?
You had a winner.
Yeah. Do you see anything on this report that jumps out at you?
Yeah, if you go down just a little bit, one thing that could be an issue is content shift listed as an issue there.
We have the content layout shift. Yeah. They actually their score's pretty good.
Okay. The only reason I said that, and that's something that people might look out for, is if the page moved. And if you look at the image timeline there, I noticed that headerboard image loaded the slowest out of the page content.
Yeah.
We've got page content on slide 3, and then it's whatever that, I don't know if that's 7.
Looks like that hero image is taking, and I'm guessing, you know what? I feel like that image may be something that was provided by someone, or it just doesn't seem to fit in with the rest of the site to me. Maybe they tried a new program. A lot of people are doing this, or seeing people, Canva now has AI and you can become your own designer. And I'm seeing people throwing images into websites that they've designed using some AI tool that, like we were talking about earlier, are way too big or not appropriate for the particular design.
Well, let me share real quick, Tony.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So just to pick on that image, they could probably raise their score dramatically just by fixing this one thing. So here's the image. Here's the actual size of the image.
Wow.
I mean, look at the difference.
It's huge, and they're definitely wasting a lot of space. I mean, yeah, they've got some. There's no reason to have it like that at all.
Right. So if they
It
fix
looks
that
worse when they have it displayed compressed like that.
it really does. So if they could fix that one image, that would probably fix their page speed, and get them into a reasonable zone from a page speed point of view.
Definitely. Okay, well, Eric, thank you so much for being on the show twice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like we got some good information in here. We did this show twice, and I wish we had the first one because I think there was also additional information then. We covered some stuff today we didn't cover then, and so that's the thing I love about this format is that we could literally do the same show 3 times and come up with 3 different
Yeah.
complete podcasts. So
Well, there's lots of things to look at. One of the things that I was thinking about talking about with the florist is schema, right? We didn't talk about schema with
yeah,
any of these guys. Schema is a great thing to talk about. So there's just so many little tidbits that you're like, ooh, if we did this, we could get an extra 20% performance, an extra 5%. You add up all these little gains. That's how SEO really works. I mean, SEO is about making lots of little improvements that add up to a big improvement. And
no,
I think miss that. They go, oh, I want a magic bullet. It's like, no, I don't have one magic bullet. I've got 20 of them. I'm going to add them all up, and then you're going to get something good.
and just so Eric, you are a golden ticketed guest. That means that you can be a guest anytime. You don't have to ask. Just sign up on the that guest list, the calendar link that you have. And I know that you'll be back. I'll be asking you back shortly, because this has been a great episode, and I can't wait to get it out. It'll be out in a couple. It'll be out. We're about running 2 weeks back right now,
Okay.
so it'll be out 2 weeks, and then I'll of course talk to you when it comes out. So,
Right.
so
Well,
Eric,
thanks, Tony. Appreciate you having
thanks
me.
again. Definitely. Everybody, if you are watching this, please like and subscribe, and tell your friends about the podcast. Thanks a lot. I'm Tony Wright.